Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For our group project presentation, our team going to present the project that we have made. The project will implement the network automation concept and we name the project as network automation with OSPF, DHCP and backup configuration. Before we start, let me introduce my team member first. First team member we have is Kamal Khairi bin Abdul Rahman. The second member is Mohamad Rushdee bin Hamdan. And the last one is me, Mohamad Amirul Eiman bin Abdul Khalib. Okay, now let's proceed with the introduction part. Now, I will explain for the introduction part. That is what you will find in this introduction section. First, the implementation of network automation has become worldwide. As we know, people nowadays try to implement the network automation in their life to make our life easier. Second, network has been used by most companies to help their daily business operation. In a company, the network is the main connection that connecting all other devices used to send and receive any data and information within the company. Third, in business operation, problem can occur for the network. The problem are often faced by the IT department of a company. Okay, next, for this project, the problem that been faced where the difficulty of configuring the OSPF, DHCP, and backup procedure to the router. In real life, to configure a router, people need to manually configure it for each router, which it is not very efficient and took a longer time to finish the maintenance. Okay, now let's proceed to the next point. This project comes with a solution by using the network automation. We will try to implement the network automation to counter the problem that we faced earlier. And for the last part is the objective of the project is to automate the process of configuring the OSPF, DHCP, and backup procedure for every router. By this, the process of configuring the router will be easier rather than manually configure it. Okay, that's all for the introduction part. Now, let's proceed to the next part of the presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Mohamad Rushdee bin Hamdan and I will present project specification. Okay, first let's go to the problem statement. Router configuration can be tedious. If you want to set up only one router, it can be done in any minute. The problem came when we want to set up the router for the whole building. Thus, the network automation came to the rescue. Network automation will automate all the router configuration from the main PC or route or server, and it will deploy all the connected routers. Hence, it will ease the network engineer to configure the router for the whole building. Next, we will move on to project scope. So, the first project scope is the project will cover on the way to configure the basic OSPF configuration using Python and libraries such as NetMiko. Second project scope is the project also will cover on the DHCP configuration. It also will be using Python and library such as NetMiko. Most of the configuration will happen on the same application. And the third project scope is the project must be able to backup the current router configuration automatically using network automation. Next, we move on to the project objectives. The project objective is to continually improve network automation to improve the functioning and effectiveness of the network. The suggested network automation may be used to automate the Open Shortest Path First or OSPF and Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol or DHCP and router backup configuration. Every router on network will perform a basic OSPF and DHCP configuration as well as backup procedure. Next, we move on to network topology. So, this is our network topology, and I will explain to you a brief about our network topology. First, Cloud 1 will deploy a Python script. Each router will automatically configure with OSPF and DHCP, and each router will automate a backup process. Next, we move on to tool to use. So, for our project, we'll be using GNS3, Ubuntu Virtual Machine, and Visual Code Studio. For our programming language, we'll be using Python, and for the library, we will be using NetMiko.
For this part, I will explain on how our automation works. Our automation project consists of two Python script and one YAML file. So the first one is config.py file. So this file is a Python script which was programmed by us to automate the configuration of router with OSPF and DHCP configurations. The second file is backup.py file. So this file is developed by us to automate the process of backing up the running configuration for each of the routers into a text file. And the last one is YAML file called inventory. So this file contains the information about all of the routers such as interface IP address, pool, network, gateway, and area, which is crucial for the automation of OSPF and DHCP to work. So both of the Python script will refer to the inventory.yml file. Firstly, I will explain the flow of config.py script in order to get the overview of the script. Firstly, the script will read inventory.yml file to get the information about all of the routers that they need to configure. Then, the script will go through each router to configure it based on the information from the inventory.yml file. It will automatically configure connector interfaces with IP address on detected routers. Then, the script will configure the routers with DHCP to specify the pool, network, and gateway of the DHCP. After that, it will configure the routers with OSPF using network command including the area. So this process will repeat until the script fails to detect any new routers that is available in the inventory.yml file. Then I will explain the flow of the backup.py script. Firstly, the script will determine whether the backup folder already exists or not. If not, it will create a new backup folder. After that, the script will also read inventory.yml file to get the IP address for each of the routers. Then the script will connect to the router. After that, the script will run show running config command on the routers automatically. Then the output of the command will be saved into a new text file for the router in the backup folder that already created by the script just before. So this process will repeat itself until all of the routers finish their backup process. Now I will explain in more details for each segment of code in both Python script. For config.py file, netmiko_con is a function that allows the script to connect to all of the routers using netmiko. That's why we need username, password, and secret for each router. YML is a function that allows the script to read the inventory.yml file. So in the main function, YML function and netmiko_con function will call. Each of the router that is listed in the inventory.yml file will be configured. For the IP address configuration, the script identifies the interface and the IP address from the inventory.yml file and use that information to automate IP address configuration. Then the script will grab pool, network, and gateway information from the YML file to automate the DHCP configuration. And lastly, the script will also grab network and area information to configure OSPF on the router automatically. For backup.py file, YML is a function that allows the script to read inventory.yml file. Then backup is a function that allows the script to connect to all of the routers using netmiko and run show running config command on the router. The output will be saved into a new text file for each of the router. In the main function, the script will automatically create a new backup folder at the desktop directory if the folder not exists yet. So then YML function was called to read the inventory.yml file to get the IP address for each of the routers. Then the script will loop through all of the IP address of the routers and call the backup function to automate the backup process. So this process will repeat until all of the routers done backing up their configuration. So This is the inventory.yml file. As you can see, it contains information about all of the routers in the topology. It contains information such as IP address for each interface, the DHCP configuration like pool, network and gateway address, and OSPF configuration like network address and the area of the OSPF. So both Python script will refer to this YAML file. So this part we will demonstrate how our automation project works. So this is our topology where the cloud represents my PC. So my PC currently connected to a layer 3 switch. This layer 3 switch will connect to 4 routers. Each of those routers will connect to a PC. So the aim of our project is to automate the configuration of the routers with OSPF and DHCP configuration. So before doing the automation, we need to configure all of the networking device with SSH in order for the automation using NetMiko library to works. But we already configure all of it with the SSH. Other than that, no other configuration were made. For example, we can run show running configuration on the R1. Like we said before, there is no configuration were made. We only configure SSH on each of the routers. As you can see, there is no configuration were made. Same goes to the other routers. Now I will go to my command prompt to run the Python script to automate the OSPF and DHCP configuration. Firstly, I will run the config.py file. This file will automate the OSPF and DHCP configuration. So from the output, we can clearly see the automation is successful because we can see each of the router will configured automatically with OSPF and DHCP. So to prove it, I will show the running configuration of the routers. As we can see, there are DHCP pool already configured and each of the connected interface already configured with IP address. If we type show IP protocols, we can see the OSPF successfully configured. Same goes to the other routers. The other way of proving it, we can assign the PC with IP address using DHCP. Firstly, we go to the PC and I will show the current IP address of the PC. As you can see, there is no IP address. Now we will assign the IP address using DHCP. As you can see, the PC already have the IP address from the DHCP. Now I will continue with another PC. As you can see, all of the PC successfully assigned with IP address from DHCP. So, to prove our OSPF configuration works, we will try to ping any PC to any PC. For example, we will try to ping PC1 to PC6. The IP address of PC6 is 192.168.41.2. See, we successfully pinged from PC1 to PC6. We can try another like PC2 to PC3. So the IP address of PC3 is 192.168.20.2. As you can see, the ping is successful. Now, after we successfully configured the routers with OSPF and DHCP, we need to automate a backup process of the configuration that we have just made. So, I will run the backup.py in the command prompt. As you can see, the script is trying to connect to each of the routers and backup their configuration. As you can see, all of the routers successfully back up all of their configuration. We can access this backup on the backup folder that was created by this Python script. In the folder, each router will have its own text file that includes all of their configuration. So if you run this script on different date, it will create a new folder with a different date. So this text file is really beneficial if the router suddenly having a problem such as configuration loss or having troubleshoot problems and you just want to reset it to the previous configuration that is free of error. You can just copy and paste the content of this file in the console of the router. It will save you a lot of time from configuring it manually.
Now, we have come to the end of our group presentation. Here, I will make some conclusion of our project. There are three conclusions that we can get by implementing the network automation in our project. The first conclusion is the implementation of network automation in daily life has made all the process become easier. The network automation will help do a task automatically without any human intervention. By this, it is clearly that the network automation able to make our life easier than before. Second, the main objective of the project is successfully achieved. As for our project, the implementation of network automation is to make the configuring process for router become easier and faster. It only takes a minute to configure every router in the network by using the network automation that we have made. And the last conclusion is the capability of network automation need to be utilized to the maximum. It must be used to maximum capability because it has a lot of advantage that can be used to help human having a better life in the future. So that's all for our group presentation. Thank you.